Hello, entrepreneurs, dreamers, business owners, and happy people with high hopes. Welcome to Cashflows with your host, Cash Matthews.
All right, welcome to Cashflows. I'm your host today, Cash Matthews, and we're glad you're here. And today we explore some of those life questions that make your life a little better, and we call that pursuit the good life. So often in business, it's so easy to get stuck or bogged down, or maybe you have a goal or a thing you're trying to accomplish and you just haven't quite, gotten there. And for me, that really happened in the third grade. I was trying to be a smart kid, but I wasn't. And I copied off my neighbor and got in a bit of trouble from my Aunt Dorothy, who also happened to be my third grade teacher. And she asked me afterwards, she's like, "Why are you copying off your friends?" And I thought that was the dumbest question I'd ever heard. And I said, "Well, Aunt Dorothy, they're smarter than I am." And so although wrong to do in the third grade, very appropriate to do when, I don't know, what grade would you be in? I've been out of high school for 43 years, so I'm in the 61st grade.
Something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember what grade I'm in. Anyway, well, we're glad you're here, and we bring in entrepreneurs from around the community who are having success, who are taking steps, who've taken a stand, and we interview them, and we find out what makes them tick. And we find out some of their business acumen and some of their hacks along the way. And with that, we call it Fire, Aim, Ready. And that is our philosophy, and it is about taking action. We believe that action cures everything. Not perfect action, just regular old action.
Just regular old.
Regular old boring action.
Did you come up with Fire, Aim, Ready in third grade too?
I was doing Fire, Aim, Ready.
Oh, wait, we got to aim.
So anyway, I want to introduce our executive producer for the show, Mr. Kenneth Bockham. Kenneth, welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
I feel weird welcoming you to the show that you produce.
Well, I mean,
Especially because you've been here all day, too.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I could turn the mic on for you so that you could say that.
I like that we get together on a regular basis here in this 3x4 refrigerator box.
That's right.
And but man, it smells good in here. So we are.
It does. A little baking soda goes along.
Good
with it.
natural smells.
Well, it's we call
No
it,
doctored smells.
we call it manly.
Manly.
Musk.
Or we actually call it. That guy is very hunkly.
Oh, really?
Hunkly's my new word. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm feeling kind of hunkly today in my new. Well, I'll just leave that off. But,
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Sounds like a husky uncle.
it's a husky uncle. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Or a hunky. Yeah, no, hunky up.
Yeah.
I can't even say it anymore.
Well, so anyway, we're here trying to
Let's get on
support
with it.
This wasn't the topic for today, no?
trying to support our local business owners, the Tulsa B.O.N.G, supporting this event or this podcast, and we get to host those on the TulsaBong.com. Super cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, doing some daily wisdom bits. That's super exciting. I remember, man, when was it? It's just been a couple episodes back. You talked about the 5 data points every entrepreneur needs to collect.
Yeah, the 5 data points.
Yeah. Oh, yes, data points. Yes. And one of those was a birth date. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
That's one of my favorite topics. And, as an entrepreneur, you're building a business and you're going through life. And I think this even works so for non-entrepreneurs.
Okay.
If you're homeschooling your kids, I think one of the things that we seek to do is make connections. And in the business world, it makes a lot of sense to create connections through data. And, just for an example, Kenneth, I've been in Tulsa for 3 years. I've been working for 2 years. And in those 2 years, I've done 1,100 one-on-one appointments.
Wow.
I know that sounds crazy, but I'll stack them up. I'll do 8 in a day, kind of like we're doing 8 podcasts in a day.
Yep.
But one of the things I make sure, if you're going to do an appointment, you want to make that thing count. And I've never been one to do appointments with no purpose. And I'm very purpose driven. And let me review those 5 data points. So the first time when you meet with somebody, you want to get their name, their cell phone, their email. Those are the 3 basics. But there's 2 more that you're going to need, and one of those is their date of birth, as Kenneth mentioned. And one of the things I love to ask people is, hey, look, would it be weird if I asked to send you a birthday card? I have never had anybody say no to that. And most, in this high-tech world, everybody says hi on Facebook, happy birthday on Facebook, or a digital thing. But very few people get a real hand-signed, thoughtful birthday card.
Oh, sure.
But I
And
like
you see that with Christmas cards too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Christmas card business is dying. Well, I want to liven it up. I want to revive it.
Cool.
And I'm that guy that wants to send a card to the people that are in my world, and I love a thank you card. And I love birthday cards, and I really do love Christmas, and I want to be better at communicating with people. So those are the 5 data points:
Nice.
name, cell phone, email, your address, and your date of birth.
What's your birthday?
And it's September 16th, 1961, every year.
Nice.
Wow, every year the same one.
I've-
That's pretty cool.
Crazy.
62.
I bet that makes it easy to remember.
Well, 62 in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good
So
job. You're keeping it alive.
we're keeping the dream real. So I want to talk about birthday cards for a second. And, I work with entrepreneurs on a daily basis. The last 42 years, I work with entrepreneurs. It's what I do. And I love to talk about strategies, how to grow a business. And something I can tell you certainly is the best place to find a client is from another client. And that's why we get those data points, is that, we can work with a client and be nice to them. The simple act of being nice to one another is one of the ways. And look, let's get real for a second. Don't be nice to somebody just to build your business. You should be nice to people because you're nice to people. Simple, end of story.
Yep.
So don't think of friendship as currency, but think of friendship as just a great opportunity to serve those around you. And one of the ways we serve people is with birthday cards. I was talking to a realtor the other day, and this is a great example. And the real estate industry has been a little bit slow. And I said, well, prior to the slowdown, how many clients have you had the last 15 years? And I think the number was like 300. That you're a pretty decent realtor, done pretty well for themselves. But this year they're struggling. And I said, well, what's your birthday card program like? And they looked at me like I was crazy, and I may very well actually be. But I said, look,
Verdict's still out after 62 years.
after 62 years, if they haven't figured it out, that's on them.
You learned you weren't smart in the 3rd grade, but you're still wondering that part.
Hey, once you figure out you're not smart, you're much smarter.
That's true.
I took off all the pressure when people go, what are you, stupid? Yeah.
Oh,
And people will look at you and you're like, oh, I didn't expect that. But I started a birthday card program in my business. And 5 days before every client birthday, I send a hand-signed birthday card. Now, I figured out how to do it with technology, and I found out how to do it a little bit cheaper because I don't like going to the mall and going to the Hallmark. And great store, I have a lot of good memories there.
of course.
But I figured out a system whereby I can go down once a year, put in all of my client birthdays, and send out a birthday card to each of those clients. And I send it about 5 days prior, and I'll look and see if there's federal holidays. But I want to send an actual birthday card. Let me tell you what that does. It lets people know you're thinking about them. The best place to get a client is from a client. And if you treat your clients well, major great things happen to you. And it's so simple, but I believe we have to automate it. And I figured out how to automate it. And if you want to learn more about how to automate client retention services like a birthday card, I'd love to visit with you about that because I work hard, but I'm also inherently kind of lazy. And whatever the thing is, I want to figure out how to do that thing as quickly as possible,
Right.
so I can get back to the important things in life, which are, my family
That's right.
and my pets and, living the good life.
And your cars that are also computerized.
Oh, yes. Are we looking at my cars today?
yeah, why not? Yeah,
Well, I've got a fleet.
that's pretty cool.
A lot of people want to have a cool
Yeah,
sports
he's
car.
got 10 of them.
I have 10.
Hey, if you're going to drive it, you have to make the sounds.
Well, these are these little cars, not actual size,
Right, of
I mean,
course.
as far
Just
as-
scaled down just a little
yes.
bit.
but these are they're all stick shift
Of course.
so that no millennials can steal them.
That's right.
That's a good move. Yes. Wow.
Yeah, so I don't even have to lock the doors. People look in and go,
I'm out.
All righty, you ready to get on with the show?
Yeah, let's do that.
We are excited today because we are going to make the most boring, ugly topic exciting.
Oh.
And we have my friend here, Harley Liechty. Am I saying it correctly?
Liechty.
Liechty. Okay, Harley Liechty. I want to say it exactly right so that you'll get to know him. And you can find Harley at getbetterbookkeeping.com. And he is in the bookkeeping business. And he is the guy that makes you not hate that side of your business. And so, Harley, first say hello. We're really glad you're here.
Hey, yeah, good to be here, man.
Now, we met you at this business owners networking group.
Yes.
And
We enjoyed a bong together.
we hit the
Yes.
bong together. We offered as a, you can't have referral. You can't have a referral without reefer.
Yes.
Is that funny?
Wow.
Right, that's a good one. No, I
I
haven't
haven't
heard that one.
yet. Yeah, that's a new one.
It is. It's a homegrown kind of business.
Yep,
Please tell me you have a,
Grassroots
there you
technology.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, there it
Please
is.
tell me you've got a list of these that
He
you
does.
just reel off.
I just keep hearing them from people. And they'll call me like, "Hey, I was at the Bong 3 months ago, and I wanted to say this. Grassroots." Ha!
And that's pretty much how the call goes right there, just like that.
I love it when it's a message. So if you have a funny bong joke I can use, Cashflows at TulsaB.com.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we have a new website set up,
Woot,
TulsaB.com.
woot.
Nice. There you go.
Cashflows, one word, at TulsaB.com. Love to hear your weed jokes. We'd appreciate it if you'd send them to us.
All right.
Oh,
sorry.
man.
No,
All right, back to the topic.
I am lit up today.
You are, yeah.
I want we
Hey, that was another
we
one.
met you at the Bong Group, and I want to hear like you had an experience with the Bong Group. I know you've met several people, created clientele. What's it been like for you being a member of the Business Owners Networking Group?
Well, yeah, when I came in, it was very early in my business. I started beginning of January 2023.
Right.
So, I had known that networking groups were something that people do
It's a
to
thing.
get work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started exploring different groups, and about a month or two in, I saw your Facebook page first.
Okay.
And ton of people on it. Not compared to what it is now, but back then it was probably like 1,500 people or so.
Yeah,
on this Facebook
1,500,
page.
2,000,
Yeah.
like a year ago. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of posts. There was this event for a breakfast over at your place.
Right.
So it's like, okay, sure, let's go out and do that. And then, you and your wife, Katie, are very hospitable. Everyone was great, very friendly over there. I appreciated your very straightforward candor about how you want things, which is very much a relief,
Right.
But yeah, no, that left a good impression. And I went to the big Bong conference meeting, whatever you call
Right.
it.
Yeah, the Bong Live.
The Bong Live.
Yeah.
Went to those about 3 times in a row, and yeah, built up a lot of relationships.
Right.
And as a result, there's been not only clients that I've gotten to meet that came on with us, but also good referral relationships
Right.
that have ended up, we've fostered those friendly relationships together that have brought on other clients. So
Great word for the
It's-
Bong, fostering friendly relationships. I
Yeah.
like that. I think
Yeah.
I like it.
I think we'll keep that.
it's definitely beneficial, man. You
Yeah.
know, and it stands out just about the sheer size of the
Right.
people that are there. I mean,
Yeah.
that stands out in itself.
Yeah, it's been we had 24 people already today
Wow.
try to join our little group, and
Because of this podcast.
I
It's
think
not
it's
even-
because of the
Yeah.
podcast that has not yet been released.
That's
you need,
right.
You need to
Wow.
stop saying little, because I would be curious to see the average population of towns in America,
Right?
Mm.
to see how many
Oh,
towns
Yeah.
you
How many
actually-
towns are smaller than the Bong
than the
group?
Bong group.
And when you take into account spouses and children,
Oh, sure.
the average household in Tulsa is 3.4,
Okay.
and we're 5,800 members.
Is the
and-
0.4 a dog?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just average.
You got
Just
me on that
averages.
one.
Right.
But you start to realize that there's 1,000 daily visitors
Yeah.
at the Bong group, and these visitors make comments and things.
hmm
And the group is vetted. Like we make,
Oh, yeah.
we make sure that these people are Tulsa area residents.
How many people do you have on your vetting team now?
7 counting me.
Okay. Yeah.
And man, it is. We had one here today, and she said, "Man, like my thumb is like I've injured my thumb
I'm
deleting
gonna
people."
get carpal tunnel
Yes.
in 2 years.
Yeah, and she's like, "Do you have workers' comp?"
Yeah, right.
So yeah, and you start to think about it that we'll just call it 3 people in a household, and total of 6,800 people affected by the Bong today. I mean, you're talking 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And through this podcast and other means, the Bong will be over 10,000 actual members July 1st, maybe
Wow.
July 30th. I got to do the math.
Yeah.
But just last month, we had 82,000 posts or comments or likes. And
So that's a crazy amount of activity.
yeah, and it's and we measure the numbers month over year over, and the Bong group's growing.
Well, you know what it's evidence to, because you originally had this down in Austin, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
I think it's still a thing. Isn't
Still
it?
a thing. Yeah,
Okay.
we did it down there too.
Well, you had it in Austin, what, 15, 20 years?
16 years. now.
16 years.
Yeah, we just started finished year 16.
And then, you come up here 3 or 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's just popped off.
Yeah.
And it's the evidence of when you've done something for so long, and then you just take all of those lessons and
Oh, yeah.
replicate it somewhere else. It's so
Yeah.
much easier.
Oh yeah, we missed all the growing pains here,
Right.
and so yeah, it's been, and man, I love it.
No.
Like our last guest, his uncle is one of the 3 first original members that we met over at
Oh, yeah.
at the coffee shop,
Nice.
and you know they're still members and we're still friends, and just to watch how networking can positively affect a community. You know, the Tulsa mayor's race last time was won with a total of 38,000 votes.
Right. And
And-
it's just that's
And we're going to have 10,000 unique members,
Mm-hmm.
not counting spouses and children. And not that the children could, I don't know, in Oklahoma, older kids probably live with their parents too.
Sometimes.
Yeah, we actually have a name for those. Did you know that?
Oh, what's that?
So the kids that kind of linger on. We call them, in the financial world, we call them GLBs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, greedy little children.
Wow.
That's a technical word. So anyway,
right.
but there's
Known in many financial circles as that term.
well,
yes.
that's in my financial circle. Circle singular, not plural. But it is. You've got a great point there. Is that this thing's happening,
Oh, yeah.
and the
It's
great
quick.
part about it is that we've created kind of a family atmosphere, and we had a criticism last month. Oh, the bong is too clicky for me. Like I don't even know what that means. And we had a member who found out about it in December and was having breakfast at my house the same day I heard somebody go, the bong's very clicky. I said, there's a person in my house right now that I made pancakes for, and I don't know anything about her.
Yeah.
And we're playing with my dogs. I don't know how clicky we are when you have a stranger in your house, and I'm cooking pancakes for them.
Right.
I don't know. It's just a wonderful group of people, and I'm blown away by it. But we're not going to talk about that. That's where our origin point.
Yeah, it's been a blessing to the Tulsa community.
Well,
for sure.
thank you for
And
that.
it's been helpful for us, and that's what I've discovered this year with networking is that we'll actually take it years to come in some other advancements we do in the growth of our company as a growth strategy, a
Right.
core move to get folks,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's exciting. Well, so we want to dig in with Harley here today, getbetterbookkeeping.com. And for those of you that are business owners, and actually if you're, not a business owner and maybe thinking about it, one of the things you want to do well is take care of the paper, take care of the books, take care of the numbers. And there's an interesting phenomenon, and I want you to speak to this because,
okay.
So many of us, we get good at a thing,
Mm-hmm.
maybe making pies. I don't know. We're great pie bakers. And we go into business to bake pies. And then all of a sudden, we have to hire somebody else to bake the pies because we're doing the bookkeeping and the taxes and the HR and all the other things. Talk about the delegation of these things that are hard. Because, to me, they're difficult. And I think most entrepreneurs right now, you're hearing the word bookkeeping, you're clenching your jaw, and you're going, God, I hate Ken.
Do I skip this episode? Really? Do I want to listen?
Yeah, this is the one you need to listen to.
Well, so you bring up the point of delegating this work, and in a classic book, The E-Myth Revisited.
The E-Myth Revisited, yeah.
Which, by the way, that book is something I have my team members read as one of
Right.
the core books because it's one of the clearest descriptions of what a small business owner actually goes through that I've seen.
Right.
In a business book. And he talks about how one of the first things business owners want to delegate is their bookkeeping.
Right.
Because, as you say, it's such a cumbersome task where, yes, you want to bake pies, you want to be an architect and build homes, but you all of a sudden, at some point, eventually you realize, who's going to do the books? I got to do that for filing taxes? Where's my money going? So, yeah, maybe the business owner does it. Or they hire a spouse or some relative that begrudgingly does it. Or maybe they work with a bookkeeper, But
Right.
at some point, someone has to get this work done.
I have a philosophy that bookkeeping for small businesses is bad for marriages.
Oh,
Like-
yes. Yeah.
Like, okay,
Absolutely.
save your marriage, get a bookkeeper.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because you start to think about, hey, honey, we're going to do this and this, and we're going to have this great life, and we're going to be independent, and you're the bookkeeper.
It'll be fun, they said.
It'll be fun.
Right.
and we're going to go do these great things, but you can't because you're the bookkeeper. So save your marriage, get a bookkeeper.
That's right.
And right now, like Well, I won't go into that, but there are people hearing that going,
You might have
got-
just
Yeah,
saved
it's
like
kinda
12
true.
marriages
Oh.
right there.
Wow.
that Harley guy is exactly right. So let's talk about the kind of companies you're doing the work for. Because can it be a solo one-personpreneur? Wait, is that a word?
Solopreneur.
Solopreneur.
Yeah.
Solopreneur.
Yeah.
There you go.
I almost didn't preneur right there. I mean, do you work for the single entrepreneur that's just doing, the single unit entrepreneur?
Well, you could, but I'll say the folks that are solopreneurs, where it's just them and their business doing the work, it's not to like a revenue size to where honestly they couldn't figure out how to basically do it themselves
Right.
and get a good tax accountant to
Right.
help walk them through it and get things updated for the year.
Right.
And when it's to the size where even if there's six figures, not even 200,000 a year, it's still a kind of size of a business where they can essentially keep track of the details themselves.
Right.
And they use like a QuickBooks self-employed program.
Right.
And there's YouTube videos online about how to track this stuff. So you just get some good, advice and counsel, and you're able to take care of it yourself. Unless you really just like, hey, I don't want to mess with this. Like, please do it for me.
Yeah.
Then we'll figure out something.
So I tried that the other day. I had to replace a thing on the car. It's called a headlight thingy.
Oh, yeah. The headlight
Like
thing.
you turn the
Yes.
lights on and no
Technical
lights
term.
came on.
Yeah.
And my buddy who owns a car place said, just YouTube it. And I YouTubed it. And then I went to a store and had somebody else do it.
Right.
Yeah. No, that
Like, yeah, I'm
makes
sorry.
perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. It's like the at-home appendectomy. You could figure it out,
Okay.
but why would you?
Right.
And so what's the number one thing you see people in that space, the entrepreneur, maybe the solo entrepreneur, the 200,000 and below maybe, what kind of mistakes are they making? Because I know they're making them.
Oh, okay. Mistakes with anything specific?
Well, just, running your side of their business.
Yeah. Well, okay. So having to deal with the finances for a solopreneur, I would say the biggest issue for them is they bleed in the personal and the business expense way
Right.
too much.
Done it myself.
Yeah. Where, it's an easy temptation because, it's just you and your business, right? So it's easy to bleed in the two things. But honestly, if you want to get a true gauge about really how healthy your business is, then you want to make a clear distinction between what you're spending on personal expenses and what you're spending with your business, because that's probably a big issue that solopreneurs have, is because they are the business. They don't make this distinction,
Right.
but it doesn't tell them like, okay, how healthy is your actual business functioning
Right.
if it were its own thing?
Right.
If
If you are an employee of your business, that's sort of how you view that then?
Yeah. Or
Okay.
if you hired people in order to do the work for you,
Right.
would it be able to sustain itself?
It's a fair question. I think we should all ask that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of what you do is like a humanitarian mission where you're cleaning up after this storm that most entrepreneurs make.
Oh, yeah. There's even terms like forensic accounting
Right.
out there where like that's a term for very large companies to really investigate finances. But you could even do it on a small scale,
Okay.
forensically investigate where the heck is your money going?
So Harley, I love entrepreneurs. I do, man. It is.
Yeah.
It is. I have a financial business, but my passion is working with entrepreneurs and just getting them pointed in the right direction. And I don't know what the answer is. And I don't, maybe you'll work with some, maybe you won't.
Mhm.
But I think this is the proving ground, right? The industry you're in.
Mhm.
And we get a lot of posts on the Facebook like, hey, I'm starting an entrepreneurial thing. What's the first thing I should do?
Oh, yeah.
You're the first thing they should do. Or somebody like you. They need to take account.
Well, yeah. So I appreciate you saying that we're one of the first. I'll even make it much more specific,
Okay.
because why would you even want to talk with someone like myself or someone that's in tracking finances?
Right.
Because you got to make sure the business actually works.
Right.
And
You have to prove it.
yeah, how do you figure out if it actually works? Well, actually, it goes even further to your own personal goals.
Right.
Because I got trained that the business is just a vehicle
Right.
to whatever you want to get to with
Right.
your life. And so you got to figure out, like, where do you want this business to take you financially?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you figure out that endpoint, now you're just working backwards to figure out, does this financially work out here with how I'm pricing things, what the cost of the material is and my time? Like, does this all boil down to an equation of a business that works?
Right.
And that's why, even though you might hate getting into the numbers or you didn't like math class, there's every entrepreneur that ends up, even if they're just a solopreneur wanting to make a good living for themselves, it's a responsible decision to dig into this stuff. Because if you don't, then you're going to run a business for yourself year after year and year and wonder why the heck you're not really making ground on your personal wealth, you know?
A lot of people say, oh, I hate numbers, but they like getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
And every
How much do you hate numbers then?
every paycheck is measured in numbers.
Yeah.
And I love working with young entrepreneurs, and I love the ones that are particularly robust in their memeisms. Like, this is my year. I'm a beast.
Oh yeah.
I'm brand new and I'm going to the top. And I'm like, yeah, you might be.
They've read all the quotes.
Yeah, they read all the quotes, got all the memes. And I always ask them, like, so you're going to be a millionaire? Oh yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire.
Oh yeah, come on.
And then
This time next year, baby.
This is it. This is my year.
Let's go, baby.
Wall to wall. But I always ask them, like, oh, cool. Where are you going to put it? And they're like, what? Like, well, you're going to be a millionaire. Where are you going to put it?
Yeah.
And like, they're like, is it like in a bucket or briefcase? Where are you going to keep the million? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And nobody can ever tell me.
Sure.
So like, we talk about, hey, if you're going to do some wealth building, maybe you want to have a place to put it.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Right.
Well, I don't want to talk totally about taxes because we're taking the role of an anesthesiologist when we do that and putting people to sleep. But that was actually that was actually pretty good there. We need to stay in our lane. But one of the things I wanted to add, you guys just finished year number 1.
We did.
And I want to talk about that. First off, profound congratulations on finishing year number 1.
Hey, thank you.
A
lot of folks don't figure that out.
I am jacked up about that. You finished year number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's got to be a little bit of satisfaction that you just got through the first year.
Oh, sure. I mean,
I know you've had a few speed bumps. We all do.
Yeah, everyone does.
We don't have to talk about those.
We can if you want.
I mean, is there one that stands out? Like, what's one thing in this year that you learned that you didn't know you needed to learn? I mean, I know that's pretty deep.
Well, let's gear that toward one of the most unexpected challenges.
Okay, there we go. Beautiful.
And I would say HR is one of the most unexpected ones because before I started, I was actually never in a management position before. And when you go from just working a job to at the end of this year having 5 employees,
right?
There's all these little nuanced conversations about how you talk about people's pay, how you set up expectations with folks, how like the interview process, and then making sure they're still engaged and happy, but you got to give criticism to make sure they're doing well.
Right.
It's all these HR conversations, and there's HR compliance rules that I just had no idea about. And it's just, that was a stress that I definitely did not realize was there.
Yeah.
But it makes you better prepared to help your clients for whom you're doing all the bookkeeping work.
Oh, totally.
Because you can now have that conversation and go, hey, here's the thing I learned.
Right.
Yeah. And that increases your value proposition.
I mean, look, if anybody wants to humble themselves to the nth degree, start a business. Because that's what I had for this first year is just multiple instances of like, I don't know everything and I don't know how I'm going to do what I'm doing, but I feel pretty confident about it.
So you've had a year, you learned some stuff. Let's talk. I mean, there had to be some good wins in there as well. You said you have 5 employees.
Yeah.
How many did you have on day 1?
Well, day 1, we started with 10 companies.
Right.
So I hired my first bookkeeper on day 1. And as a result, by the end of this year, we're about 50 companies we work with.
Right.
And so, we got 5 employees on staff. And beginning of this year, I just hired my wife, actually, to help out with some admin, social media work.
Got it.
No, I mean, considering a lot of startups, there's a lot of good things about how this year went. And a lot of blessings that
you've had some great growth in the employee side, and you started with 10 companies, and now you're at 50?
Yeah.
What's that percentage? That's like, 500%?
Yeah, 5 times for where we started.
Wow, 5X. 5X your business, man.
Yeah.
Isn't there a class on 5X?
It's not as sexy as 10X.
I'm kind of a simpleton when it comes to goals. I went to the 10x your business, and the guy's like, "How you liking 10x your business?" I'm like, I'm kind of.
You went to the conference?
I really want to do 11x my business.
Right.
So I don't know,
wasn't
man.
satisfied.
I'm not. No, I did not go to the conference.
Okay.
But these go to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to 11x my business. So you've had some good wins this year.
Oh, yeah. No. And I mean, another thing is that for our namesake, Get Better Bookkeeping, we're trying to provide bookkeeping that's better than what people have had. And I
Right.
mean, for the fact that we have all these folks coming on board
Right.
and that they're staying with us
Right.
is the huge testament that we actually are living up to our name,
Right.
and people are really liking working with us.
But you're not
So-
really just bookkeeping. You are advice driven as well. You've been in the business world and you know things to say to people.
Sure. So I'll give a little more context. Before I started this business, I was a business coach for 5 years,
Okay.
and a local place in Tulsa called Redmond Growth, and I got trained up from a guy who had sold like a $40 million business back in the day, to about anything and everything about growth issues with small
Okay.
businesses. But over those 5 years, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is there continued to be this consistent growth issue that I saw with any of these folks. And it was that no one knew their numbers. Where, like I mentioned before, year after year, you put your blood, sweat, and tears in your business. Maybe you get to the end of the year and you have a meeting with your accountant and they say, "Hey, looks like you had a net profit of 20 grand this year. Good job." And you're thinking to yourself, where the heck is that money?
Right.
What? I didn't see that.
Right.
I felt like I had to cut back on what I could pay myself, or
Right.
like we struggled. So what's happening here? And this is over the 5 years, almost everyone had this reality. And this was even the case if they hired a bookkeeper,
Right.
which was annoying to me because I'd go on a coaching session and it'd be January 9th, but it's today. And I'd say, "Hey, do you happen to know how you ended up this last year for your finances?" And they say, "Oh, well, my bookkeeper's still working on November," or even worse than that.
Right.
And this just kept happening to where I thought, okay, wait, so these business owners never know how well or not well things are right now?
Right.
This is a problem.
They're kicking the can down the road waiting for the answer.
Well, yeah, or they're always looking in the rearview mirror
Right.
so that they can't actually make decisions to be helpful now about how they should manage things. And I knew bookkeeping could be the answer, but somehow that was not happening.
Okay.
So that was the big business motivation. The personal motivation was that I got married in 2021, and then we got too excited, and in 3 months found out she was pregnant. So
I do financial planning, not family
So,
planning.
sure, right.
Okay, so just saying.
no, he's a great kid. Love that he was born. But it ended up being this unintended pressure where I'm like, oh yeah, all these fun ideas I had like years down the road, I need to start now
Right.
because I got a clock.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, in the job I'm at, I'm making good money, but I got these crazy goals in mind, so I got to kick it up a notch.
Right.
I didn't want to go back to school because 1, debt, and 2, I didn't want to be a lawyer, doctor kind of guy.
Right.
And then I also thought about being a hotshot sales guy, but while I could have done that, it's very against my nature.
Okay.
I would be I would do it just because of the money, not because I liked it.
Right.
And then what I thought is, wait, I've been doing coaching for 4 or 5 years, and whether I like it or not, it's as if I'm being trained to do this, to start and try and grow a company. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to start a company. And then it was talking with my brother and him giving me a generous opportunity to partner up with me, where it really opened the door to doing this.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's a cool starting story. And we're going to come back to that in just a moment. But first, we're going to go to Mr. Kenneth. And
For a commercial break?
We are going to take a commercial break.
You got sponsors?
We have sponsors, man.
Wow. Okay.
All right, here we go. Today, we're going to talk about Elevate Coworking. Elevate Coworking is where local business owners connect, collaborate, and grow. We offer a community of tools and resources to fuel your passion and your productivity. Elevate your future with us, where success is not just achieved, but celebrated together.
All right, we are here today with GetBetterBookkeeping.com. Harley Liechty. Did I say it right that time?
Yeah. There you
Okay,
go.
I
Good
want
job.
to make sure I get it right. A person's name is important, and
It's
we're
like,
talking
it's like the country Liechtenstein.
the country Liechtenstein. All right, which is
There you go.
that is eastern Kentucky, from what I remember.
Sure.
Far eastern.
Yes.
All right, and we're talking about a thing that we don't want to talk about, and that is bookkeeping, and which leads into the tax conversation. And we're talking to Harley, whose company's celebrating 1 year here right off, and they've had a really great year. And I kind of want to just say I'm proud of you.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I want to find
Thank
out a
you.
little more about you. Like, how'd you get to Tulsa? Are you native here? What's your story, dude?
yeah, no. So I was born and raised down in Dallas,
Oh, okay.
Dallas, Texas, and
We'll allow it.
yeah, okay. Hey, our state team went to the playoffs this year, so
Cool.
gotta watch it with your Okies.
Is that in volleyball?
Football.
the
College football.
the other-
the ball,
the other
the
one.
feet.
Yes,
Okay,
the other
The other
ball.
one,
The other
Yes,
one. Okay,
wow.
I've heard that sport.
Yeah, so born and raised down there, and how I got up to Tulsa, both my parents were alumni from Oral Roberts.
Oh, cool.
So I came for a college visit, and while, I had thoughts of like going just way up north, getting away from where I was at, ORU ended up being the best fit for me.
Right. So, did you graduate from ORU?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you're kind of a local boy now.
Oh yeah,
That-
I've definitely
that-
become. I'm
that
definitely a
makes you
Tulsan
local.
now. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely a Tulsan. I mean, if you count the college years, I've been here for a decade.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay.
So yeah, finished up 17 marketing degree, and I mean, maybe I learned 5-10% of what I learned was applicable to the business
Right,
world, but
right.
but yeah, no, I ended up staying here because I just knew more friends, and for whatever reason, I felt like going back to Texas felt like retreating,
Yeah.
going back home. So
Well, you can build a good life here, and especially with a family, this is a great place to raise a family.
yeah, no, and that was very clear when I got here in college. But it's so funny. People at ORU, they're always like, "Oh man, I don't want to stay in Tulsa. I want to go to like big cities, L.A., New York, Chicago, Dallas." And then there's so many ORU kids that are still here.
Yeah. Well, it is a good place to live.
Oh yeah, it's
And-
totally on the up and up for
Yeah.
sure.
And I've been here 3 years, and I love it. We're glad we're here.
I think what people really got on the map is, remember when Tesla, they were trying to figure out their second big location?
Yeah.
And it was between Austin, Texas and Tulsa.
Right.
And we were all like, what? Tulsa was in the conversation?
Yeah.
So that was just one aspect of like Tulsa really getting on the map.
Right.
So,
Well, there's more coming.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
As a quasi rookie economist, I can tell you there are reasons why Tulsa's growing crazy
Yeah, man.
right now, and these are good times.
super
Well,
affordable living.
Well, let's talk about you, the human, and if somebody were to describe you, and to somebody else, if somebody were to describe you,
Okay.
what would that sound like?
Well, okay. So you're saying if someone were to be like, hey, I've been seeing this Harley guy around, and I'd like to meet him, but what do you know about him?
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, what would people say about Harley?
Well, I guess I would say that I have definitely become a hard-working, diligent guy. I was not that for a long time,
Right,
but I've definitely fostered that over these last few years.
right,
I'm also a very scheduled calendar management kind of guy. I could talk for an entire 2-hour podcast about calendar management.
right.
And I've also very goal-driven, goal-oriented, make goals every year. But there's something funny that my wife had told me about the kind of guy I am, and she gets unnerved by it, and it makes her uncomfortable a little bit. But she's like, Harley, you're the kind of guy that can go into any room and act as if you own it.
Right.
Which to her is like, you're being impolite and indecent and inconsiderate. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the arrogant Texan side of me or whatever, but I can go into almost any place and not feel uncomfortable, feel confident about who I am,
Right.
And yeah, so, but I think on top of that, anytime I've had a good one-on-one with someone, it's always been a positive experience,
Right.
Getting to know people and getting to really know their lives. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think they'd say some of those things, but
Very well. I kind of agree with that.
okay.
I'm not a guy that walks in and owns the room. I'm the guy that kind of hides in the garage. You know,
Okay. So you're not even in the room. You're hiding in the garage.
I'm going to let
adjacent to the
somebody
room.
else win. You can win the room. I'll be out here with the donuts.
Oh, hey, if this tells you anything, one of my favorite questions to ask people, and I'll ask you this.
Okay, sure.
If you were to do one job for a day, what job would it be?
Something other than what I do?
Yeah. If you could do any job and be good at it for a day, what would you do?
Oh, professional golfer.
Oh, yeah?
On the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
But I need 4 days.
Right. Yeah. To get to the whole tour. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
you
whole
can't do
match.
anything in one
Right,
day.
Yeah. My answer is always to host the Tonight Show.
Oh, okay. That would be
Wow.
kind of awesome.
That would be very fun. Another thing about me is I love creative projects.
Okay.
So I've recorded some music albums and I put together a book a few years ago. But I really like taking something creative, a challenge like a music album or a book where
Right.
it's something that so many people do, and put it together in a physical product and try and figure out how to make it stand out from the millions of other editions.
Okay.
You know?
Well, standing out is something that we have discussed, and it's important to you to stand out. And I think that's not just in business. Talk to us about the concept of standing out in your area.
In my area of bookkeeping?
Well,
Or what?
it's just as one of your priorities.
Yeah. Well, look, I recommended a book. There's a great entrepreneur out there called Seth Godin, and he wrote a book called Purple Cow. And in this classic small book, he's a big marketing guy, but in the book, he talks about how you need to stand out in your crowd because there's so many businesses that are doing the same things.
Right.
And so there are all these normal cows in a big field,
Right.
you know? And at first, his whole story is he had some vacation over in France or something. And like in all the storybooks that you see of like cows and pastures, it's a real thing over in France, you
Right.
know? So he goes there and he's like, whoa, look at all these cows. They're everywhere, thousands of them. But then after a while, it numbs in the background.
Right.
It's just all these cows, you know? It's not a big deal. But the title Purple Cow is well, what if there was a purple cow out there? Like you would park your car, go take photos,
Right.
share it on social media. Like, whoa, this is a freaking purple cow. I've never seen this.
Right.
And so this is why it's really spoken to me and why that has been a bestseller is because you got all these businesses doing all the same stuff. So it would behoove you if you want to do well in your business and even your life to try and make yourself as remarkable as possible.
Right.
And, we've tried to do that with our bookkeeping work where we've heard the different complaints and issues or things that make it a laborious, slower process or make it to where, most of the time when people are getting bookkeeping, it's not beneficial to their business.
Right.
And so that's the whole point about working with us is like you mentioned, we're not just doing bookkeeping. We help people manage payroll. We help other people manage other kinds of specific tracking issues like job costing for projects for remodelers.
Right.
But I require at least once a month for people to come in and do financial review meetings
Right.
where they just take a time out and show up. And then I show them all the details on their P&L and what's going on with their cash flow. And with their details they share with me in the field or what they're doing in their business, we come up with the facts of the business instead of just feelings.
Right.
And then we have action items that we assign based upon those so they can actually have a profitable, better cash flow, better tracked business. So it's bookkeeping that actually does help them. And we've seen this throughout the whole year, which is pretty cool, you know?
And well, I think that is awesome. I think standing out's important.
Yeah. And so, you mentioned with your life as well,
Yeah.
you know? So I have always, I don't know whether it's a Christian thing, but a lot of Christians have this pressure of you got one life, live
Right.
it to the best of your ability.
Right.
And there's a lot of times in my life where that's become unhealthy and I've like overstressed myself
Right.
about not making the wrong decision, which is why through college, I end up with a degree and I have no direction. Because I built up all this pressure where I didn't want to make the wrong decision. Then I end up being nowhere.
Right.
It's like, well, you got to move somewhere, you know? But there is a lot of truth with that, where if you end up with your life where you're not thinking ahead about the kind of guy or gal that you want to be in the future, or the father or the husband or the friend, then you're going to let life drift by. And it's the classic story now where you just hear about the 40, 50-year-old that just carried on with life, and they have the midlife crisis,
Right.
where they're like, I got to get a motorcycle. I got to do something to wake myself up.
Right.
Because I'm now suddenly 45 and everything aches and I'm not happy with where I'm at. And so the sooner you can make that decision to try and stand out and be remarkable, the happier you're going to be with how things go. Because, like, I don't know, you're just going to be a lot happier with how your life transpires. I mean, there was, when I started making goals in the coaching job, they had trained me about how to do that. And I asked myself a question where I asked, okay, it's kind of a morbid question, but it's a good one for people to ask. But if you're lying on your deathbed at the end of your life, what's one thing that you would really regret never figuring out? And, you could have all sorts of meaningful answers to that question. Sure. I came up with, I wanted to be a great jazz pianist.
Okay. And how'd that turn out?
Well, how that turned out is, thankfully, I was actually serious about that.
Right.
And I spent 4 years practicing with a piano teacher here in town. And so I'm pretty decent at jazz piano now.
There you go.
Cool.
And I'm not at the spot yet. I've unfortunately had a 2-year hiatus. I don't know if it's about being a new husband or a dad or growing a business or whatever. But this year I'm starting back where I want to get to that spot where I fantasize about this moment in my head where I go to some strange city and I'm just looking for something to do at night because I got flown out there for something. So I find some local spot bar and they got a piano. Right. And I ask, hey, is anyone playing the piano, to the bartender? And the guy's like, oh, no. And he's like, can I play it? He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, he doesn't know me,
Right.
But I just go on there and murder for an hour.
Right.
Just kill it, make the guy and everyone be like, who the frick is that guy?
Right.
Just came out of nowhere.
Right.
And I would love to be able to do that, just to sit on a piano and murder. And just I've listened to jazz pianists all the time, trio, quartet sets. That's like constant playlist of my music all the time. And it would just mean the world to really have that skill. And that is a specific example about why standing out for yourself or your business is so meaningful.
All right. Well, we know where you want to be someday. That's beautiful. Where do you see your business going in the next few years?
Yeah. So, we had a pretty great first year.
Yeah.
With having actually, I've had 2 of these now where it's like these biannual reviews with the team about how it's gone, where we're going. And, the main revelation before Christmas was that we now have a core team that we can build upon, which there's so many companies that never figure that out. So that was a huge praise moment for us. But, I would like to continue this where I would hopefully double this next year.
Wow. Okay.
And I think we can do it for sure. I mean, look, we were at a pace of like 4 or 5 companies a month that we were having net gains.
Right.
So if we just continue that, we're at 50.
Right.
Do the math.
Why wouldn't you be at 100?
Yeah, do the math. We could figure that out, and that would mean double the staff. And I had mentioned that networking is a strategic part of our growth.
Sure.
How we will do that is we'll kind of follow along with some other models where they get a small office in a city. We're about to move into our own in a month, 850 square feet place. But we will continue this model where we have these small, really efficient offices with a few people, and then build them into the different cities and start to do the local networking, outreach, build the community of referrals, and use this as a strategy about how we grow. Because really, I mean, if people ask, where am I getting my folks? A lot of them are these referral relationships.
Right.
And yes, we'll build up a digital marketing and put out ads and get leads inbound and stuff like that. But I mean, this is a big enough impression about how the year went where it's like, we could really take this seriously.
Right.
And make it a big part of our growth. So.
All right. Well, we are here with Harley Liechty with GetBetterBookkeeping.com. Harley, we'd like to have you back in a year
Okay.
and see how this year
Sure.
goes.
See if it happened.
Yeah, because we've got it on tape.
Yeah, right.
And that's
Bum, bum,
that's
bum.
pretty exciting. And I like your goal about the piano, and you're in a strange place and you kill it, and you think nobody there knows you, but you got one guy there that's in town also,
Yeah.
and like he starts to slow clap for you,
There it is.
and he goes, "That's my bookkeeper."
Yeah, right.
There it is.
All right, thank you to Harley Liechty for being here. GetBetterBookkeeping.com. You ready to wrap this up, sir?
You know, I think so, but I wanted to answer one question from the
Please.
beginning of the episode, if that's
Please,
okay.
yeah, please do.
All right, we were talking about our small town, our Tulsa B.O.N.G town of 5,800.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, according to the internet, and we have to, double check these
Well, then
numbers
it
to be
must
sure.
be. It must be for sure.
It must
That's
be
right.
true. Our small town of 5,800 would rank approximately in the 37.7th percentile in the U.S. That means
Wow.
we're bigger than 37% of other towns in the United States.
That's
Wow.
a fun stat.
Wow, let's
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's go add the people that live in those houses with those 5,800 and get that up to just about 18,000. I bet that number even changes, but we'll address that on the next show.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And these are fun numbers to play with. Thank you for that information, Kenneth.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap it up for today, folks. First, we're thankful for Harley joining us. Thank you, sir. I know you're busy right now.
Thankful for you.
And I just want to say we're proud of you for what you're doing. And to our sponsors who keep us lit up out there on the old internet, we appreciate you. And, it's a crazy world at times for people. And we just want those entrepreneurs, those individuals, those families to know, hey, hopefully this is a place where you can come and learn a little bit and take that next step forward. And so, Kenneth, maybe today is just a great day to be nice to each other. And, go make those good decisions for you and your business and your family and your friends. And for today, here's a good idea. How about today is the day you choose to forgive somebody who absolutely does not deserve it? Because isn't that the nature of forgiveness? We don't do it for the other person. We do it for ourselves. And forgiveness is that one way that you can cut those chains that bind and move on with whatever the next best thing is. So to our friends who keep liking our posts out there, to our sponsors at Commodore 64 Computers and America Online, thank you guys for being here. And a reminder, this show, it's about you, and we're glad you're here. Thanks from Cashflows.
That's our show for today. Stay tuned for another riveting edition of Cashflows.